Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This year, as part of our coverage of ATX Television Festival Season 8, I was lucky enough to sit down and chat with Jackie Marcus Schaffer and Jeff Schaffer, creators of The League. Hope you enjoy. So, a little bit of housekeeping. This is Les from the TV Dudes, and I am lucky enough to get to sit down with Jeff Schaffer and Jackie Marcus Schaffer, the creators of The League.
Hi.
Hello. I find The League is a show that almost everyone I know has watched, and everybody seems to caveat it with, but I don't like sports, or I don't play fantasy football, or I don't, there's some reason why we shouldn't be liking The League or something, or like, that's not a show for me, and everybody loves it. When you were coming up with the idea, when did it go from being a funny thought to something like, no, this has legs, this is a series engine, we need to make this happen?
Well, Jeff and I were on vacation in France, and Jeff was in 2 or 3 fantasy football leagues, too. Mm-hmm. And it was Christmas time, and we were having this really fancy meal. It was before we were married when you do things like this. And Jeff kept going to the bathroom and saying that his stomach was hurting. And by the way, this is now like one of the most famous Michelin star restaurants in Europe. And the chef was there, and he had so much pride. And he's looking at these 2 Americans, and he's like, where the fuck is this guy? This guy keeps saying,
I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I was in, night in France is daytime back in the U.S., and I was in 2 Super Bowls in 2 different fantasy football leagues. So I was running out without a jacket into the snow to call at great expense to myself. This is internet stuff and whatever, to see how I was doing. Not that I could affect the outcome, but I had to know.
So this wasn't even like changing your lines or anything. This is
literally
up.
Just what's the score. This is like 2005.
Just wanted to know, could not wait through the meal with this poor, lovely chef.
Second time I'm out in the snowdrift, I look up and there she's standing in the doorway. I mean, this is the saddest, most pathetic thing I've ever seen. This is a great idea for a TV show.
And that was it.
And the TV show was born as the intersection of basically the idea was what if the people closest to you, your family, your wife, your girlfriend, your child, whatever, are keeping you from doing the very thing you want to be doing, which is fucking around with your friends. Mm-hmm. So.
And then eventually, as they all start to play together, what if those people are keeping you from the very thing you want, which is to be winning? And I think if you look at the show, we gave people permission to treat their friends, their loved ones, their children, their spouses horribly. We said, if you can just say it's for the message board, it's okay. And I think as we became role models.
We never thought, we knew it was going to be a show about... It was a show about a bunch of people in a fantasy football league, not a show about fantasy football. Yes. And the reason why people, I think, started to love the show was because of those characters, that cast, that amazing cast, and the characters. And we always used to say to people in the beginning, hey, to enjoy the show, you don't have to know anything about fantasy football. You just have to have friends that you hate. And there you go. That was it. And I think that's what we hear that all the time too. Like, I don't like fantasy football, or now my girlfriend and I actually are in a fantasy football league together. We're like, well, that's on you. Yeah, that's not our problem. That's now a YP.
But your problem. But it is a funny thing. Like, even sort of at the beginning, we would hear kind of people say, oh, no network's going to want to make a show about fantasy football. But it's funny. And I don't know why it was a concept people felt like they had to apologize for, but certainly advertisers didn't mind, and it didn't hinder people from sort of falling in love with that amazing cast.
I would say, in the end, the reason why someone told you to watch it, even with this caveat, or someone told someone else to watch it, someone told someone else, was because it was funny.
Yes.
And there are a lot of shows that do a lot of different things, and that's great. There should be a show for everybody. Yeah. This show was built for one specific reason, which was to be a really fucking funny show.
Yeah.
And we got the funniest cast in the world, and we did funny, outrageous stories, and that's what we tried to do every day, was do something you hadn't seen on television before.
And I don't think we ever felt the fantasy football was ever shackles. Mm-hmm. I mean, it never felt that way to us. It was opportunities, and it never felt like, oh, we have to service this premise. It was just,
And I think that's why it lives on. It's like, funny is like a cockroach. Yeah. It's hard to, if it's funny, someone will tell someone else about it. It's hard to kill funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, it makes about as much sense as describing Laverne and Shirley as a beer bottle factory employee show. I mean,
exactly.
I don't care.
In the beginning, we would be like, when people were like, "Oh, this is such a niche show." We're like, "I don't get it." Like,
do you not
at that point, 30 million people play fantasy football. Like, I know people that do this. I don't know anyone who's a priest who solves crimes, and there's 3 of those shows.
I've never met anyone
That's
who works in a magazine, but that's all over every sitcom.
Yeah, that's a niche. Like, this is like, I know people that lose their shit every Sunday.
Yeah, because when the show came on, I had a sales guy that I worked with that John and I didn't have a whole lot in common. He thought Taco was the funniest thing that had ever walked the earth, and so we bonded over the league.
Yeah.
And it was great because our boss was constantly complaining about how his sports center was being ruined by fantasy. Like, why are they reporting on fantasy? This is just not what ESPN is for me. And so, like, the 3 of us kind of all, in him in a different way, he constantly would bitch about fantasy. We're like, you should watch this show, dude. But it was a wonderful office bonding water cooler show, and I don't think any of us expected that from a sitcom.
No, yeah, for men, for women. I mean, we have a lot of friends who watched it with their teenage sons. They shouldn't have been, but they did. And
yeah, we get a lot of that now. Oh my gosh, I'm watching it with my kid. I'm like, how old's your kid? 11. Like, oh, buddy, you're raising a psychopath.
You're gonna have fun with those teenage years.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we were always trying to make a show that was, you can't make everyone happy. So we never tried to make anyone happy except us and the cast. Like, and I don't think people understand what an intimate, how not like every other show this show was. There were no other producers. There were no writers on set. There was no writing room. There was no other directors except us. There was just the cast and Jackie and I and that cast making this show. Like,
I don't think the network came. The network visited in season 2, and then they never came again for 5 years.
There were no table reads.
No table reads.
There were they didn't know what we were shooting half the time. We just made this show and to make ourselves laugh. And if all of these people in this room think it's funny, that's good enough.
I think it's part of how the show gets deeper and deeper into its own little pocket absurd universe, where the jokes start to pile on each other and the running gags start to pile onto one another. Do you two have any particular favorite jokes you got to do across the show, or anything? Was there anything that you pitched for the league and then thought, we should pull that back? That's too much.
No, I mean there were times. Well, is there too much? I mean, I don't think we ever had. Is there for us? I remember once the Naginta scored song. There's a couple different cuts of that, and there was a 4-day. There was a 4-day standoff with the network. It was the only time we ever were at odds about something, and for 4 days we refused to change it, and they refused to cave. And then we started to get really dangerously close to the air date, and we all had to compromise. But I think Naginta was the only thing we really fought about.
They didn't love the kids watching the adults having sex.
Oh yeah,
love that so much.
But gosh, when I think about that, the kid in the wardrobe who accidentally watches Kevin and Jenny having sex, I think, gosh, they were so concerned at Sanders practice about that. We just rewatched the pilot this morning, and the birthday song, John LaJoie singing about how your parents want your dad really wanted to go, get inside your mom, and he forgot to put his condom on. I mean, and so they formed a 69. I mean, I don't want to tell these people they're wrong, but I mean, the kid peeking at like sort of the fully clothed people grinding under 14 layers of Boll & Branch sheets is not remotely as problematic as what we shot the very first day, which was wildly offensive.
I remember there were always things. The cast was amazing, and always we were always pushing, and there would be they would say something, well, we can't say that. And we would go, yes, you can, and then you're going to say this. We were always pushing, and there are certain areas where we're just like, everyone has their own favorite things they like to go back to, and we were like, no. Like, Jason Mantzoukas, who plays Rafi, was so sure in his world view of Rafi. Rafi was very good friends with Johan van der Sloot, the murderer.
Oh, you found it. You remember that was we don't go.
He was be having a normal conversation about stuff with a normal Rafi. I'll just run it by JVS. Who? Johan van der Sloot. But we're not doing JVS today. So he would
try.
Oh, he would keep trying because JVS in Rafi's.
We're not doing JVS.
JVS was in Rafi's world in his vision, so JVS is somebody that he would casually reference. And we would sort of have to get him back away from Johan van der Sloot.
Yeah, what if we just talked about you having sex with Ruxin's wife, who's your sister? All right, we can do that.
Mantzoukas is always great like that.
Yeah, very amenable. But that's the thing. You're talking about world building. So in season 1, we talked about Ruxin having this brother-in-law. And then in season 2, we got to meet the brother-in-law. And in season 2, the brother-in-law is talking about his friend Dirty Randy. And in season 3, we got to meet Dirty Randy as Seth Rogen. And then we get to go on adventures with him. So we always, so much of this stuff came out of just on the day, things they said, oh my God, that's funny. Let's not just use it. Where most shows would go, well, that's great, but that's not the script. But like, let's not just use that. Let's build it out.
Yeah.
Let's actually take
canon
that
now.
Yeah. So that's how the show. That's how the show got built.
Thank you both so much for your time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And I've loved the show. I was happy to see the reunion getting to happen this year.
Oh,
and,
thank you for watching.
It'll be fun.
Great.
I think that panel will be a real
Yes.
real
I
laugh.
think that'll be a scream.
Very nice to meet you.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Permanent Record Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, please go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes, and help us out on iTunes by giving us a 5-star rating and writing a review. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and permanentrcrd.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.